It's a winter wonderland here again over at CHG Coin, WeCharg.com, chgcoin.org. Haven't spoken to you guys in a while. It's been a frantic winter, but we have been busy over here. Now, up here, we haven't lived here very long, but up here the mountain folk tell us you gotta live on mountain time. You can't just rush things. And you can't force things either. I've heard said plan B is not plan A harder. CHG Coin, POA, Mainnet 2.0. I think it has its applications. I think that the massive expansion of the space has made it so that we need to consider, do we want to make this concrete? Or do we want to make it open source so people can develop their own business models from it, scavenge what they can from the code, give it back to our community by making the code open source, and move on to CHG Coin 3.0, which is a lot more exciting anyway, in addition to the previous Wi-Fi leasing, full mainnet, energy is money. Every second you can charge CHG Coin, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, credit card, which means fiat currency, US dollar, euro. In addition to all the old stuff that we've spoken about ad nauseum, I'm excited to start developing a ledger that is offline, off grid, as a basic standard. You can see my goats up there. There's Daisy, she's our shepherd dog. And it snowed about, I'd say, 1.5 feet last night. Our shepherd dog up there, watching those goats, we had to make a trail for them, and they followed it. It was pretty cool. Have something to look at else besides that. It's a beautiful day, but where did they go? You can kind of see a bit in case I lose track of where they are while I'm talking. So, CHG Coin 3.0 offline. No, the big thing I've noticed, the big problem I've noticed, in addition to any particular blockchain tech being compromisable by the same people who created it, or the miners, as in the case of Bitcoin, being the corrupt entity that can just modify the ledger. Nobody knows it because they have got the majority rule. I want something that is the same, better amount of trust of the software, but I want it to be better in so many ways. I want it to not use energy to process the ledger, and I want for the ledger to be processed offline, which means it's more of an encryption, end-to-end encryption, moving data, moving money, which is to say data from one person to another, with just a shifting of multi-sigs and a shifting of what is it called, Merkles. I think that's not only doable, I think it's the right way to do it. I've made the analogy, being able to transact in space if an alien were to show up and there was no internet, but you still wanted it to be legal tender for an entity, in a way that's totally transmutable, transfungible. What you would do is you'd make it fully offline, as a standard, and you would make the code in the encryption. That's easier said than done, but that's what I really want to work on for CHG 3.0. So that the big problem that we are particularly, that brings us to this angle, is actually energy. It takes an awful lot of energy, even with a POA mainnet like ours. A lot of also bandwidth, which is the big resource you're missing out here in the boondocks, in order to process a ledger transaction. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to waste energy to produce a transaction. Instead, you should be... Oh, I'm so sorry, they moved on us. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but to have an energy wasting currency, when energy measurement is what you're all about, you should try to minimize the size of your meter, not maximize it. So that's what we're picking at. Like I said before, probably gonna mothball CHG 2.0, give it out to you for free, open source, portions of it anyway, and then move on to talking about CHG 3.0. Release the CHG 2.0 architecture, which is now declassified, and I'll give you morsels of CHG 3.0, which I developed about a year ago, and start to talk about, well, my own project now is to focus on CHG 4 and help people to become interested in CHG 2 and CHG 3. CHG 1, I would say more or less, other than being a proof of concept almost immediately out the gates, which was kind of an underappreciated thing 3 years ago when we got started. CHG 2.0, in addition to the Wi-Fi leasing, time for lease model, and the POA, which I think is more of an enterprise type of blockchain. If you know all the nodes in your network and you only authorize all the nodes in your network, that's bulletproof security for a enterprise or a small business. So I think that's the application for that, and it'll still have its uses. We may or may not cement parts of it, or we may just incorporate it all into CHG 3.0. So that might come across as good news, that might come across as bad news, but it is the reality. I mean, this changing space, permits for us and encourages us and forces us to constantly change as quickly as it is evolving, or we become obsolete. So also WeCharg.com, let's talk about a little bit. WeCharg Season 2, WeCharg Off-Grid Season 2. We are probably going to do, I am not comfortable sometimes with unfortunately the local municipalities around where I work. So I work in classified areas, more or less, to protect myself from their harassments, their tyrannical harassments, and we'll talk about I think it was the 9th Amendment. I had kind of left you a cliffhanger, but I believe I'm finding out more and more in incorporating the WeCharge business model into my own lifestyle, so that I can make sure that it's a fully off-grid, fully usable business model, essentially lifestyle model. I got to live it myself, and I'm finding the biggest problem I'm having is to compete with local municipalities. So we got multiple locations. We don't have to tell you when we film stuff, where we film stuff. So if people want to harass us, we got good reason to believe that's wrong, because we're not really doing anything wrong out here. We're just trying to create a sustainable lifestyle and make a copy paste for others, with a nice blockchain to back it up, so that the better we do, the better you do, the better everyone does. And of course, energy being money. As long as you stick to that, it's pretty easy to find success, as long as you know how to market, which is unfortunately a big weakness of ours currently, but I think in the future it'll be a strength. They sure are fun, those goats. So, let's cut it off. I am gonna make another one real quick about the solar panels I got over there, but battery storage, or storage in general, an accumulator. You can store energy in a lot of ways, and I found out here you have to store energy in a lot of ways. Your refrigerator is a battery. A pot of hot water is a battery. Your water pressure is a battery. Air pressure can be a battery. Hydrogen is a nice thing to think about. Steam energy. But days like this, when yesterday I should say, today will be sunny, but once I wipe the solar panels off, but days like yesterday with no sun, you need big batteries, big storage, and lithium is nice, sort of. I think it's a stepping stone technology. I think we need to get over to actually a more natural battery, like steam pressure, hydrogen, some combination of the two. We also need to make our cars as a battery, or the battery for the home. there's no reason the home and the car are not the same battery when they're hooked together. There's a lot of little things to work on. A lot of things, like I've mentioned before, people are working on in tandem and parallel with us. They don't even realize we've been waiting for them to develop what they're developing, and hopefully vice versa with us developing things other people can pull off the shelf, hardware and software. I found you have to work on a lot of projects at once and at kind of a mountain pace. You have to kind of let the mountain dictate, or wherever you are, dictate the speed of the pace. So sometimes it's good to slow down, reassess. Plan B is not Plan A harder. So we're gonna look for Plan B, and we're gonna make sure that this project is a success in the long term, which is what we're looking at. Hope you guys have a wonderful day out there. WeCharg.com, WeCharg.com, chgcoin.org, chgcoin.org are the websites to check out. And guys, please post in the forums. I get awful lonely out there. Forum, which is singular, forum.chgcoin.org. I'd love to hear from you. You guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.